Probably my favorite horror book would be Ghost Story by Peter Straub. It scared the hell out of me.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrienne, and today we're starting a new series on my channel where I read authors' favorite books. Now, I've seen people read celebrities' favorite books like UnCarly and Jack Edwards, and I've seen where people read other booktubers' favorite books, but I've never seen someone make a video dedicated to reading an author's favorite books, so don't copy me or I'll sue you. I have quite a few authors picked out for this, but I figured since it's the spooky time of year, I would go with Stephen King, King of Horror, and I'm gonna read the book that he called scary. And that book is Ghost Story by Peter Straub. This book was published in 1979. It follows 4 men in a small town who committed some sort of crime when they were children, and now the past is catching up with them and they might be getting punished for their crime. I'm not sure what that entails, but I do know this story is a little supernatural, and Stephen King said it was scary, so let's see how scary it is. Today's the day, friends. I'm going to start Ghost Story this morning. I'm very excited and nervous because it's over 500 pages. What was the worst thing you've ever done? I won't tell you that, but I'll tell you the worst thing that ever happened to me. The most dreadful thing. Listen to this line on the first page. Because he thought that he would have problems taking the child over the border into Canada, he drove south. Is the book starting off with a kidnapping? I'll let you know soon. I'm happy to report that I can finally tell you what this book is about now because I'm 100 pages in. So, the beginning of this book, first 20 pages, you're following a man who has kidnapped an 8 or 9-year-old girl, which made me very, very uncomfortable. It was creepy, like he wasn't actually doing anything to her, but one, he kidnapped her, but also they are driving cross country, and in order to make sure she doesn't run away when they go to sleep, he like ties her body on top of his body, and it's just like, ew, what's going on with that child? By the end of the 20 pages, you're like, is she a child? Or is she like a vessel for something else creepy? Because she herself was being very scary. So after that, it feels like we're in the main part of the story, which follows a group of men that call themselves the Chowder Society, and they meet up every week at each other's houses for whatever little meeting reason that they have. And 1 year ago, one of their members died. We don't know how or why yet. Since that night, for the last year, every week when they meet, they tell each other stories about the worst thing that's ever happened to them. But it seems like the stories are sometimes made up or just like a twisting of the truth or an exaggeration. But since they started this, all of them have nightmares, and they now all had their worst nightmare yet 1 year after their friend's death. There's a sense of foreboding that something terrible is going to happen. Like they can all just feel like something bad is going to happen, something bad is starting, and they also all feel like they're being watched and followed, and they're all scared. They're all having horrible nightmares, and they're all terrified, waiting for something bad to happen. It's scary so far. Like, it's not terrifying, but when one of the 2 lawyers, his name is Sears, he told a story, and it was about when he used to teach at like this rundown small town school, and these children who were very disturbed and creepy children, he looked into their lives to try to help them, and they had someone taking care of them that died, but Sears had seen the guy, but I guess he was a ghost or an entity of some sort, and it was very scary. But then it's like, is this story real? Like, are you saying that ghosts are real, or are you just exaggerating something that happened, or are you just making something up? Like, I don't really know yet. I know this is a paranormal book, but like, does he think the story's real, or did he make it up? I don't know. But so far, it's good. I feel like I'm going to be scared to death. I have over 400 pages left, and yeah, so far so good. Hi. This book is taking me much longer to get through than I expected, but it is so fantastically good. I love the writing. It's just for some reason this writing is taking me longer to get through than a regular book would, but I'm fine with it. No, I'm not. I'm getting annoyed about it. So I decided to take myself out into the woods by myself and just read my book. Distraction free, add to the spooky element, and I just wanted to come out here and be scared. As much as I like being afraid in a book, I'm genuinely terrified of being murdered in real life. So there's a balance between how far from the trail I can go so people won't hear or see me because I'm embarrassed, but then not too far that if a murderer starts murdering me, no one will be able to hear me scream. I feel like my dad's gonna be very upset when he sees this video because he wants my safety to be top priority, and it is. I am safe. I'm being very dramatic. I'm in a public park, okay, but I'm by myself and that's scary. So anyways, the book, Ghost Story. It's so good. This follows a very large cast of characters, not just the Chowder Society, which is the group of older men whose one member has died a year ago, but it also follows so many people in this small town called Millburn. And it's such a great time being in this little town where everyone knows everybody. You have a party and it's like, oh, there's the guy who runs the bank, the guy who runs the movie theater. Like, everyone has their role in town and it's very cool. Just very good small town vibes, and it adds to the creepy factor. Why is someone walking right this way? Is he a murderer or is he just a nice man? So this has actually lots of ghost stories, whether it's literal ghosts, like someone we know is dead and then we see them doing nefarious things. And all of the characters, or a lot of the characters, have stories from their past that seem like they've had some supernatural paranormal encounter before, whether it's ghost, possession, whatever. Like almost everyone in the story has some creepy encounter, or they're currently going through a creepy encounter, and it's like their whole town is being tormented by super scary stuff. So we've had multiple deaths happening in Millburn, and some of them seem natural, some of them are clearly unnatural, and it started off with animals and now it's people too, and it's super spooky. And now we're just like, what other characters that we know is something going to happen to? And so the Chowder Society has invited this man, Don Wanderley, who is a writer, and he wrote a book that involved ghosts, possession, paranormal activity, and he's a relative of someone from Millburn. So they invited him to like tell him what's going on, and maybe he could offer insight. So they bring him and they're like, is the story that you wrote real? And if it's real, like, can you help us figure out what's going on? And it's so good. I'm enjoying it so freaking much. But why do I have almost 200 pages left? It's taking me so long. Also, I love the writing in this book. Like, each sentence has a lot to say. The book is very plot focused, not really much character focused, although there are great interesting characters. We're just not seeing a lot of character development or anything like that. And just because, I mean, it's not a priority, we don't need it in the story, but the plot is so fun. We're dipping into so many different people's lives, and they're all involved in different stuff going on. But is it different stuff, or is it all related to each other? It's so good. And there keeps being parts where it's like a page-long sentence whenever we are wrapping up a chapter that's a super long run-on sentence. Well, not a run-on sentence because technically it has the proper punctuation, but a super long sentence where it'll say like, Ricky Hawthorne is locking the door for the night and lighting a candle, and Millie hears a knock at the door that there's no way that she'll ever answer, and James Sears is like, it's just this cool like check-in on everybody on the same page. Ugh, I love the writing of this book so much. So anyways, let's get back to reading. Also, I just got this chair recently and I'm obsessed with it. I finished Ghost Story, finally. You don't know this, but it took me quite a few weeks to read this book. I did read other books in between just because I needed to finish stuff, but this took so long. Why was it over 500 pages? I don't know. But let's go over my final thoughts on this book. I really liked it. I don't love it. It's not a new favorite of all time, but it was really good. And for being written in the 70s, it did not feel that dated. Like, yes, there was missing technology and stuff, but it kind of feels like a timeless book. I've been going back and forth on whether or not I recommend reading this. If you enjoy a slower horror book, if you don't need high climaxes, then I recommend this book. There were parts of this story that were scary, but overall, this book wasn't that scary. And I can't believe Stephen King picked this as the scary horror book, or his favorite horror book. Not that it's not scary or horror horror-y, horrific. But just like for that to be his top pick, I don't know. Some of my favorite things about this book: this small town. What started off as very charming, where everyone knows everyone, turned into a very unsettling setting because you're in this small town. It's winter. They end up getting feet and feet of snow, and the town is basically being held hostage by supernatural beings, and that's so spooky. The fact that everyone knows everyone and people are dying in lots of different ways and bad things are happening, and like you personally on some level know everyone who's dying. That charming small town turned creepy really quickly, actually really slowly, but it was such a claustrophobic feeling of just being stuck in this little town, and the way that small towns feel detached from the rest of the world, like, definitely upped the creepiness of the setting. And then my absolute favorite character is Sears. Two of the members of the Chowder Society have their own law firm, and Sears is one of the lawyers, and he's kind of like the leader of the group, the most sophisticated, established of the men, and he's just like this cool old man who like knows exactly what he wants. He's unmarried, but he's kind of just a lovable old gruff, in my opinion. And it was funny because there's like terrifying things happening, like ghosts and beings and things, and he was the least afraid of the group. And even like in moments where he had to go do something that did scare him, like the fact as soon as he felt fear, it just made him angry and harnessed it into rage, like, oh, I'm so mad that I'm afraid to do this, I'm just gonna go do it harder, be angry at whatever thing I'm encountering. Like, it was so funny. His personality was just so great. And then he also just had a big heart and wanted to take care of everyone and protect them. I loved Sears so much. Now the negative. The female characters in this book were not done very well. There were only like 2 of them, and they were not good characters. They weren't even like real people, just terribly written women. Although a lot of when I was reading, like the misogyny was so ridiculous that it was kind of funny. So whenever things were happening, either like men judging women or just like how the women were acting, it was just so ridiculous that it made me laugh. Like, I'm not offended by it at all. Peter Straub just did not write good women characters, but the women characters that there were just like sexy caricature bimbos. Can I say that? I mean, that's what they were. They were a mess, but it was fine. Like, they served their purpose, but not good at writing women characters. But then the main premise behind the book. Listen, I was prepared to hate these men. I thought they committed some heinous crime, and I was ready to like just root for whoever came back for vengeance and wanted to destroy them for what they did. And then you find out what they did. That's all. Like, it's not even bad. It's not even like, I wouldn't even send you to jail for that. I certainly wouldn't kill any of you. So the act, like, I mean, obviously I'm glad they didn't do anything terrible, but it just didn't make sense of the epicness of the reaction that they received. It wasn't that bad. And listen, I love justice. I love revenge stories, but the punishment has to fit the crime, and it was barely a crime. Yeah, this book was very good. Was it scary? There were some scary parts that were like creepy, weird, a little unsettling, but overall this book was not scary, especially once they started figuring out what was going on. Well, I mean, as much as you can really figure it out, but like once we got a picture of like what was happening, what kind of was explained, I was like, oh, it's not scary. Like, I think I fear more of the unknown and the possibilities, and once it was even slightly explained, like, even if you said, I am a magical being, I can destroy the entire earth, that's not like, that's not scary to me. So it lost any level of fear by the end, truly. It didn't quite fulfill what I was looking for in scariness. And if you watched my October TBR, I talked about how when I have nightmares, they're like not even scary. And I just have dreams that are just not even, like, I'm so unimpressed by the dreams that my brain makes. For example, last night, I was dreaming that I was cleaning out a disgusting drain full of hair and goo and stuff. It felt like the longest dream. And it was like gross and like kind of horrifying. Like, really? I've been reading scary books all month and I was dreaming about cleaning out a drain of hair, which I know that is scary to some people, but it's my hair. I think it was my hair. I don't know. It was a dream. But then the other day when I watched the Bob Durst documentary, literally I watched 10 minutes and fell asleep. I had a nightmare that someone was gonna murder me, and I woke up and gasped in fear. So, I don't know, maybe books just can't give me nightmares. Anyways, that's not the point of this video. The point is, Stephen King said Ghost Story is his favorite horror novel. I didn't find it scary. It's not a new favorite, but I'm very glad that I read it. And I do plan on reading more of Stephen King's favorite books and other authors' favorite books. So hit the like button and subscribe if you're interested in seeing those videos in the future. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.